And it does say that we are now live, which means it's starting to propagate through the networks. I'm here with World Tattoo Events, Alex Van Dutch, and Hell City Tattoo Festival's Durb Morrison. And they are going to be going through the history of tattoo conventions. That's the title of tonight's series. As everyone is sharing this around so that more people can watch, I'm going to be doing a little bit of testing to make sure that's happening. And I have a couple of announcements before that, right? So the last interview that we did in this series was with Kim from the Brussels Tattoo Convention. You can check that out on the YouTube and the Facebook streams. If you are a tattooer, then you should go to tattooeducation.com/giveaway. Just giveaway. And you can see I've got a Cheyenne machine here in the background, and we will be raffling one off to somebody who enters that list. So tattooeducation.com/giveaway for a chance to win a full, I think it's a Terra Soul tattoo machine with a grip. Also, Inkjet Stencils is a sponsor of the Reinventing Network, which is awesome. If you email your upcoming tattoo picture to gabe@tattoonow.com with Inkjet Stencils on the subject, then you could potentially get a, they have this pretty awesome system, so they print out the stencils right on the paper, and, the full setups with a printer and shit. But point being, if you have a tattoo that's coming up, send gabe@tattoonow.com, subject Inkjet Stencils, and you can get a sample stencil sent to you for one of these upcoming tattoos. Reinventing the Tattoo, of course. Guy Aitchison's amazing online resource. It is 25 plus years of him tattooing, intentionally and sharing, as well as tons of guest artists doing their own guest chapters with their expertise, and weekly exercises, which is amazing. The online Reinventing Tattoo community is getting together at least once a week at this point. We're here now. It's 3 to 5 times a week. The Reinventing community is sharing the best that tattooing has to offer, and you should definitely subscribe to it. It's not that much for the immense wealth of information. Reinventingthetattoo.com. Hopefully you're there or here now. Okay, sorry guys. Let me just check real quick, but I also want to talk about some of the other upcoming events. Looks like it's going out on the YouTube here, and it is going out on the YouTube there. I imagine that the Facebooks are happening. Upcoming events. The Tattoo Collecting Podcast is beaming out every Thursday at noon. Fawn Baker and Jordan Rukas are talking with tattoo collectors, often tattooers. But again, the podcast is great for both tattooers and artists and collectors and just the public alike. You're going to learn a lot about tattooing. And it's every Thursday at noon Eastern. They work at Red Tree, which is under Durb's purview. What else we have? The Sunday night, the 13th, December 13th at 9 o'clock Sunday night is an art jam with the legendary Judy Parker. So if you get your paints together and your art, then you can zoom in and join. We get everybody kind of going at once. You got to be cool, but we'll bring you in to paint with everyone. And or you could just kind of watch along, listen along, and it's great to throw on in the background, either live or while you're tattooing. That is 9 o'clock the Sunday. Tattoo Smart, actually, Russ is doing exercises on Sundays too. I believe he's 7 to 9, so check out the Tattoo Smart channel also. Monday mornings, every Monday morning at 9 o'clock in the morning, Jake Meeks is leading up the Reinventing Drawing Group, #Reinventing Drawing Group. You can go check out the work that people are doing, but that's every Monday at 9 o'clock. Tattooers join in, shoot the shit, talk, drink coffee, draw. And also on Mondays, Needle Jig's doing interviews at noon on Mondays. Okay, if you don't catch any of this live, go do the searches on the YouTubes and get the replays. I think everything's going. So I'm going to pass it on to these guys. Alex, you want to take it away?
Yes, hello everyone, and thank you for watching our second episode of the History of Tattoo Conventions. So this time we have on board Mr. Durb Morrison, which is the owner of the Hell City Tattoo Festival in the United States, one of the longest running tattoo conventions in US. So first of all, nice to see you again, Durb.
See you too, man. How you been?
Thank you. I'm good. I'll keep myself busy despite everything. How about you?
Good, man. Just trying to stay as busy as I can, despite the shows not going on this year. So yeah, just stay as busy as we can, staying positive, staying as healthy as we can too.
Yeah, and I saw a post of a few days ago. Because of the pandemic, you canceled the show for this year,
Yep.
and we thought you were ready to go for next year. And what happened then?
So just, recently with the end of the year coming up and stuff too, and just seeing kind of where we're at right now with the pandemic, we're just trying to be realistic. We're trying to be safe with conventions and actually trying to set kind of an example for others to follow, to kind of be like, we don't have to do them next year. I don't think that the pandemic's going to be over, or to the point where we're allowed to have large gatherings, and with Hell City, obviously it's a bigger gathering. So, we decided to not green light it for 2021, play it safe. We're just postponing it, moving it to 2022, and hopefully by then we'll have some of the vaccine will bring some of the numbers down, and we'll be in a better state by then. But I just think this year, man, the reasoning was, it's just with Hell City coming up in April, it's the reality is we're not going to be able to have, big gatherings.
It's still too soon. Yeah.
Yeah, it's still too soon, unfortunately.
Despite
it's
all the
for
vaccines
safety.
coming out now.
Yeah, and it's for the safety of like the artists, the attendees, the collectors, and all that. I would hate to, have Hell City or any tattoo convention be known as a mass spread or anything like that. So, and I think a lot of the convention promoters kind of feel the same right now. That it's to just kind of sit, and how much work it is to even put on a convention. It's a ton of work. I'm realizing how much work it took up in my life with just having this, break with the pandemic and stuff. So it's a lot of work to put on a show, and we're all itching to get back together, man. I miss everybody. I miss the gatherings,
I bet.
traveling, and just
I bet
everything. But
so,
patience at this point.
what are you doing with all this free time that you now have because you're not doing your shows?
Man, that's weird, man. We've all been grinding so hard with our shows, so dedicated to them. And I run, 3 businesses on top of that. So it's allowed me to get back to a lot of my own tattooing and art and stuff. So I've been tattooing again, at my studio, Red Tree, a lot more. I've been able to paint a lot more. And just kind of, I don't know, man, with the slow gear, kind of been looking at, taking care of myself and those directly around me and things like that. Got a new granddaughter.
I saw it. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you very much. So just kind of taking care of what's around me at this point, reaching out to a lot of friends and things like that as well. But focusing, going back to the roots before I did conventions and things. So
yes, and
running a shop.
Like talking about the roots, as a convention organizer, how it's just a personal question, but how exactly did you get into the world of tattooing, because you've been around for like over 30 years now?
Yeah, 31 years, going up on 31.
31 years. And what do you remember of the world of tattooing back then compared to now? I mean, what could be the biggest difference? I know this is a very large subject, but
yeah, but I'm glad to have been a part of tattooing for so long that I've seen the roller coaster ride up the hill to where it's accepted now, and it's an accepted art form, all around the world.
Yeah.
So I know I got into tattooing. I was just like a punk rock skateboarder kid. I did my first tattoo when I was actually 13, so that would have been 5 years or 4 years before that. So punk rock, skateboard art, the clothing, all had graphics on it that kind of were like rebellious and skulls and stuff,
But did you make the first tattoo on yourself, or you really had a tattoo artist tattooing you at the age of 13?
We were hand poking each other. Yeah, we were just sewing needle with some thread. We busted into mom's old, sewing needle kit when she wasn't looking, stole some needles and some of her thread. And we just did like little straight edge X's on our ankles, just little, little hand pokes. And it just led into more things. I got my first professional tattoo when I was 16. Lied about my age.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, guitar change. So, and I don't know, the love for tattooing really started when I was 13. I got my first tattoo because it was something that nobody could take, couldn't wipe it off. It's rebellious. I could hide it under my sock.
How did you get fascinated by that? Because I mean, back then it was probably like, there was still like a very big rebellious component, versus, the reason why people would get tattooed now.
Yeah. The motivations have changed over the years, even for myself. At first it was like I wanted to be like my idols, and my idols were, tattooed skateboarders and punk rock people, and even people in the scene. I saw these older guys with tattoos. So and I was always an artist to the time when I was a kid. I was always loving art and stuff. So it just, the rebellious side and the artistic side came together at that point with tattooing back then. And back then it was a lot more rebellious. It was rowdy, a lot of biker stuff going on. And it just fascinated me, man, And then when I realized.
Have you always been drawing basically as a child as well, as a kid?
Yeah, I've done art. I remember being like 5-6 years old, drawing wolves and stuff like that, handing my parents all proud.
Nice.
So yeah, it's just something I've always been into. So I think having an artistic eye and then seeing tattooing, and it wasn't that big back then. It wasn't everybody around me tattooing or tattooed. So I almost like found tattooing on my own. It was something that I had that nobody around me was doing. So I kind of cherished it, and it pushed me in that direction as far as wanting to be a tattooer, because it was so so eclectic and its own little thing, and nobody else was doing it. So right out of high school, graduated, and I moved to Columbus, Ohio, and started tattooing with a guy named Tim Miller.
Okay, so you had a formal apprenticeship of
I was already
under him,
tattooing.
or?
I was tattooing
Okay.
a little bit, and he came in and tightened me up, and taught me a lot of stuff that I didn't know. Same with Sailor Moses. I ended up working with Sailor Moses back in the day.
Yeah.
Taught me a ton back then too, as far as the mechanics and things like that I thought I knew until you get around some of the big dogs, and then you're like, realize how much shit you don't know. So I don't know. It's just a fascinating art form. To me, it's like the most unforgiving. Like, you got to be so precise, and it's it's intrigued me and fascinated me since I was like a kid, literally. And here I am.
And in the early days of your life, or even now, did you have any other artists that you were really looking up to, or that really inspired you to do what you do?
Well, growing up was like, like Dali, Van Gogh, all the classics and stuff like that. Once I got into tattooing, Timothy Hoyer, I got my whole back by Timothy, and some of my leg. Guy Aitchison was blowing my mind still to this day. I've collected from him. Joe Capo.
I saw it.
Yeah, just a lot of artists back then, part of my generation that I was collecting from. So it's endless now, man. I'm running out of room. That's the problem. I literally have like my left foot, my stomach. I'm trying to keep like my old man 2-pack, and then my armpits. And then I'm
I see you've been working out a lot lately, right?
Trying. What else? Not much else to do. I got to work out as I'm getting older. I do a lot of jujitsu and try to stay, with the strength training and stuff like that too. I call it the prison garage workout with the pandemic.
Yeah.
None of the gyms are open or anything. Trying to take care of myself, during the pandemic's been challenging, and our gym just closed too. So. Yeah.
I admire you. You can do that, because I was trying to do that as well, and then instead of I gained weight during this pandemic. It's very hard to.
Yeah. See, but I live right across the street from like one of my lifting buddies too, so I can be like, "Hey, come over, man."
There you go. Yeah.
We've just been isolating and working out like that. So you got to stay healthy, man. I've got a lot of like physical problems from tattooing for like the last 31 years. I've got herniated discs and bulging discs.
I heard you also give courses about that, about preventing physical problems.
Yeah. Once my body, because I was like, what's wrong with my back? And I thought it was like arthritis or just like tight muscles and stuff like that. And then when I looked into it, got an MRI on my spine. I ended up having like severe thoracic herniation with a bulging disc below that.
Yeah.
So it'll take a toll. But after that, I started teaching, because I was like, man, people need to know. I didn't think there's just like bad posture. I used to dip and turn way back, and that repetitive motion over time will wear your spine out. So with the next generation, I was like, I should actually start speaking about some of these physical, issues that a lot of tattooers are having, nowadays, from tattooing like 10 to 12 hours, at a time, like these long sessions we try to pull.
That takes a toll. Yeah.
And you got to stay stationary. So I just started, teaching, and I realized how many other artists were like interested in that. And I've had hundreds and hundreds of people reach out about problems they're having, and I try to suggest ways that they can better their back to prolong their career, because that's one of the things actually why I can't physically tattoo as much as I used to. Because if I tattoo like 10, 12 hours like I used to, man, I'll be paying for it the rest of the night with my spine and some nerve pain. And
yeah.
Like that. So
I hear that a lot as well.
Yeah. So that's why I started teaching.
Okay. I'm gonna hop in real quick. I'm gonna hop in real quick here. We've got,
What's up,
I'm
guys?
just gonna, there's people in the chat rooms that want to say hi. We've got Giovanni. He says, or she says, they say this is a cool show. Love it.
What's up, Gio?
Thank you.
Mr. Gio, I'm
Nice.
thinking he's from Columbus. So what's up, dude?
Hey, Durb, let's talk about Hell City. This is why we're here today.
Sir.
How did you get into tattooing, and then how did you decide to organize your first tattoo convention? How did that really happen? And what was the situation back then? Did you already visit other tattoo conventions before doing that, or you just decided
Yeah,
to put on your own show?
the first tattoo convention that I did was with it's kind of right after I got into a studio too. I'd never been to a convention, and then Tim Miller, who I was tattooing for, he actually was like, "We're going to a tattoo convention," and it was the Easy Riders, bike and tattoo rodeo here in Columbus, which was huge, man. It was actually pretty big, and I was 18, like all ready to go in there. So that was my first one, man, and there again, it just fascinated me, like I was already tattooing and around the tattoo crowd. I was just fascinated by that. And then he took me to this convention. I met so many other artists from like out of state, artists that started coming through his shop and guest spotting and stuff. So the Easy Riders bike and tattoo rodeo show in Columbus is my first. That kind of sparked
And that
my
was
interest.
back then in, what is it, 90s or something?
1991.
1991. Well,
Yeah, I think it was like
it's a long time ago.
1991. Shit.
That's 39 years ago, man.
Time's
No.
flying, bro. Yeah. But
29,
those were the early
29.
conventions. A lot of the tattoo conventions were intermixed with like bike shows or car shows and things like that. They were kind of like piggybacked onto some of the other shows back then.
Did you see any family with kids back at that time at shows?
Yeah, because a biker family. Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
They weren't in the tattoo alley, but they were around. Yeah, because it's always been like a family oriented thing too, I think.
Yeah. So you organized your first show in which year? Your first Hell City?
Yeah.
2002.
So I kept hitting conventions, kind of like checking them all out, traveling the world, and guest spotting with other people in their booths, and then literally kind of seeing back then some of the shortcomings with tattoo conventions. They, like they could be more visual, they could be more organized or focus on the artists and make sure we're well taken care of and things like that. So, I kind of milled over all these things as I was doing other conventions and kind of being like, yo, my trash isn't even in my booth. My trash can's not even in my booth at noon, opening day, or electric, or a lot of issues. So I was taking notes, for years.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, all right, cool. So I decided to move forward with Hell City. It was originally going to be called like Capital City Arts and Music Fest, or we had so many different ideas for it. And I
That's a long name.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, catchy. But I had Hell City Clothing was a brand that I had that we kind of let go of a long time ago. But that name was still on our neon at our tattoo shop. It said Hell City Industries. And when I was thinking of it, I was like, Hell City.
That's a cool name.
Yeah, and it kind of rang out to get your attention. So 2002, I pitched it, or actually, 2000, I pitched it to the Hyatt Regency, and they denied it. And they just shut it down.
They didn't know what a convention was, a tattoo convention. It wasn't cool enough.
Yeah, it wasn't, hip and cool. And, with all due respect, I could see back then they were like, whoa, shit. They'd never been approached, I don't think, with a tattoo convention here in Columbus. But a lady, Valerie Gillespie, years later called me. She's like, hey, I'm going through files here. I'm working at the Hyatt, and would you be interested in coming to talk to us about the event you were talking about? She was like more hip and new, and knew that there was potential with tattooing, and we weren't a bunch of scumbags that were going to come in and mess up the Hyatt. So after the first year, they gave me a shot and worked together. They've been great to work with, literally. But they were like, when are you coming back? After the first year. Yeah, and they realized that the tattoo crowd is like, we're respectful. We're there to do business and meet friends, just have a good time. So it's been since 2002, and it's been great, man. It's grown really big. We were having literally our last show that we did in Phoenix before the pandemic hit. We had record numbers, man. Record participation, like each category.
How when you got started, how many artists you had in your first edition? You still remember that?
Yeah, we probably had just like 150 artists, maybe like 150, 180, because we hadn't expanded to the downstairs floors. Downstairs, because what turned into our second ballroom used to be like a tattoo theater, fine art gallery, seminar rooms, boom, boom, boom. So you already had
seminars on your really first edition as well.
Yeah, but it was like smaller downstairs, and then we just had a little ballroom upstairs, and then we've expanded all the different ballrooms and break off seminar rooms and stuff downstairs. So it's grown, man. You know, it's really impressive to see where it's gone, and to know that it's influenced other shows. I see a lot of other convention promoters there to kind of just be like, huh, and then ask me questions. Like I've walked around with, multiple promoters, just been like, do this and just answering questions. Because at the end of the day, when like I'm done with doing conventions, whenever that is, I just want to have lent, some kind of change to the shows,
Just share your knowledge with other people.
Yeah. Exactly.
But you also been advising already a few conventions, right? And if you would tell them what's the key ingredient to hold a successful convention, what would you tell them? What's the most important thing according to your experience?
Yeah, well, definitely. I mean, I think a lot of people go into organizing a convention and they think they're going to bank all this money and it's going to be this big, rock star money and all this. You got to be real, frugal and smart with how you organize your show. One, have high caliber artists, high caliber performances, and some of the things with Hell City too. If I know it's attitude too. If I know somebody's doesn't play friendly with others, like typically I want that family vibe. And I think creating that really makes people comfortable and creative at the same time. And then budgeting too, as far as a promoter goes, budgeting, you can't fly everybody in, you can't give everybody a hotel room and this and that. You got to budget your money correctly, because I mean, there's a lot of unseen expenses and things like that too that pop up with a show, whether it's advertising or something will happen. So, organize it with good intentions, stay positive, and bring, like with Hell City, I've tried to bring entertainment over the years. Like Guy's done a lot of like really, like interstate scratch art projects, things like that, like things to show people that we're fine artists off the skin,
Was this already common, like before you got started, to do all these extra, side shows or artistic?
Yeah, Paul was pushing with all of his Tattoo the Earth tours and stuff like that, man. Paul was pushing it too back then. Actually, I approached him at the Worcester show and I was like, hey man, and that's when he allowed me to promote for Hell City and stuff. But also, I wanted to bring art fusion to Hell City and stuff too. And he, gave me the blessings of bringing it too. So Paul was a huge inspiration for me as a promoter before I did them, because it was just that different level, man. I had good entertainment, badass artists, laid out nice venues and things like that. So to me, that was one of the shows that really inspired me back then, and all the tattoo tours, like the one down there, Florida that we did, Chicago tattoo tour. So those are some, to me, my generation, those are some of the most inspirational.
Most best shows. And did you see a lot of shows also in other countries outside of the US back then, or?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen them grow too. Like the London convention's grown immensely. We did the shows in Italy too, over there too. Those were awesome too. Then the Worldwide Tattoo Conference over there. And then,
yes, what's the story about them? Which, by the way, you did in collaboration also with Gabe, right? With Gabe, and I think Alex Cepase was in as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
Right. Well, what was the story there?
That was different, man, because it was the first time organizing like anything overseas. And then working with Gabe, I worked with Gabe on a lot of stuff just over the years, a lot of different projects and stuff. So I met Alex. They invited me to be the host of the Worldwide Tattoo Conference, and that's when I got tighter with Alex and Gabe, and we started discussing doing the Venetian Tattoo Gathering in Venice. And from my recollection, it's one of the first, if not the first, tattoo convention that had gone inside Venice proper.
Durb, it was not a tattoo convention; it was a gathering.
That's right.
Not a tattoo convention. There is a Venetian tattoo convention gathering. That we were the gathering. Remember, we talked with a fella, and we just wanted to be clear that we are a tattoo gathering, not a tattoo convention.
Yeah. So doing the gathering there was pretty awesome, because it was like right in Venice, in one of the old palaces and stuff. So
one of the most beautiful cities in the world as well.
Can you tell the story of that lunch that we had? I don't know if we should or not, but it was a fun one.
So if anybody's wondering what Gabe's talking about, so we're over in Venice. I forget the gentleman's name, so you have to clear it up for me. But anyways, the Italian Hells Angels wanted to have a little lunch with us and just talk about some things, because they had a convention that was kind of right outside of Venice and stuff too. So, they were super respectful. We were obviously super respectful too. Went to lunch and pretty much I just had a few little guidelines. And one was they didn't want to call it a convention because they didn't want to confuse the convention part with their show right outside
The event,
of Venice. Yeah, so that was one of the stipulations. It was called a gathering. Also, was it signage out front? They didn't want like big banners. And just
that might have been another. That might have been another interest that didn't want us to have banners. It's Venice. You got to play by Venetian rules.
Yeah.
But it was a Venetian palace.
But it was the place that we did the convention in was where Madonna filmed Like a Virgin.
Oh wow.
the video. So
okay, nice one.
But that was a good experience. Working on that. Going back to some of my history with helping organize some different shows. Actually, Muse Inc. When it first started.
Muse Inc. as well. Oh, that's a cool one.
Yeah, Muse Inc. Corey Danger flew me in. He wanted to talk about how to organize the show and some contract stuff back then. So yeah, I've had my hands, in a variety of different shows over the years that have all gone on to be successful as hell. So.
Yeah, and but you got started with Columbus, and then you expanded with a second show as well, right?
Yeah, we ended up Phoenix.
Phoenix, yeah. How long after this? When did you start in Phoenix?
Phoenix, the first one was 2008. So we had done Ohio for 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
And then we decided, because I've gone to Phoenix so many times, like half my life was down there just traveling back and forth. My son's middle name, one of his middle names is Phoenix.
Phoenix.
Yeah, and I knew that there was a big tattoo and modification community down there. From knowing my friend Steve Hayworth down there. So yeah, we decided to go down there and do like an East and a West show. And that's what I'm saying. That last show that we did in Phoenix, that was like a record attendance that we had there. So we do it at the Biltmore. And one of the things with Hell City, we do them at these venues that are really nice. So when people show up to the Biltmore, it's like a 5-star resort and spa, and they're like, how the hell did you get this place to let you do this?
Good connections.
It's the same thing with the Hyatt. You do it 1 year and they realize that we're not who they, who we thought they were. It's a respectful crowd. We spend money, we tip really well. We like to drink all their alcohol. So,
that plays a big part.
Yeah.
You mentioned before that like one of your key ingredients is also to bring the right artists at your show. How exactly do you do that? Because I think a lot of artists now, they're being invited to a lot of different shows, which sometimes also like at the same dates. How do you keep a very high level at your shows in terms of attending artists?
Yeah, well, I mean, a lot of them, even from the get-go when Hell City started, it was a lot of artists, like the high caliber artists that I had already tattooed around for years, doing other conventions and stuff like that. So when I first started kind of handpicking artists, it was like I was hand delivering invitations, at shows.
Exactly, I wanted to say, because Facebook wasn't around at the time. I mean, or social media in general. How would you even select the artists that you didn't know? Let's say if you would have like some artists from overseas, did they have to mail you their pictures of something or their work?
We had email, so people would email stuff.
Right, yeah.
A lot of recommendations too from other artists too, like, hey, you should look at so and so, or hey, my buddy would like to get in, you should check out his portfolio. So I got exposed to a lot of new artists too that I didn't even know. And Hell City's always been a mix of like classic dudes, heavy hitters, but we also do have the heavy up and comers too. So I like to give the young kids that I see like artistically, like just crushing it, or just consistent artists that are just out there working their asses off. So it's not just heavy hitters, it's also the young and upcoming too that I want to, that if I see potential in them, I'm like, oh, this artist can
you give them space.
Yeah, exactly. I give them opportunities. Sometimes they'll be in like one of the smaller ballrooms or something, but they're part of the whole festival. So yeah, and then just being an artist myself, tattooing for so long, like I personally look at everybody's portfolio. I want to know who they're bringing with them, because I don't want them bringing like their apprentice. It's not an apprentice show. So
there you go. Yeah.
Kind of heavily reviewing it. We're not a show that has like 500-600 booths. We have about 180, 200 sometimes. So I feel like I got to be real selective, and it's my duty as a convention promoter and an artist to bring in the best I can, so that, because the way I look at it is everybody coming into the festival, they don't know all the artists, but when they leave,
I don't think anybody does these days.
Yeah, they're gonna know where they got tattooed. So they might remember, like, I got this fucking fucked up tattoo at Hell City. So I don't want that. So it's my duty, I think, to know that everybody walking into the festival is going to get a badass tattoo, no matter what.
And if you look back at the first shows you did, what do you think are the biggest differences, like in doing shows in the early 2000s versus now, 20 years later?
Yeah, there's less wet t-shirt contests.
Well, that's less fun, man.
But I think the seriousness of the shows and like the caliber of artists has changed definitely. Like all the shows have just pretty heavy hitters nowadays. The size has grown. I remember a lot of shows were in smaller ballrooms, so the size has grown a lot differently. There's more entertainment. There's more sponsors. There's more energy drinks and this and that, and kind of not mainstream, but somewhat mainstream that still goes with our lifestyles. And then the education part too, which is really cool. I think you got a lot more.
That's an important aspect.
Yeah, so let's not forget that. Like the seminars at all these shows, I think are really different from what was going on back then. A lot more education, live art. Like Paul and Philip and Guy brought art fusion to the tattoo world. So like things like that, like more art performances and stuff like that off the skin, are really cool. We had Chris Dingwell, Hell City, doing the wet paint project. And that's over 30 people painting the whole weekend, tattooers that are painting. So those differences are a lot. There's more education. It's a more woke crowd, I guess, at the shows.
The way I hear from you, it looks like that you had a pretty much like a path always going up. But did you ever have any real big problems in organizing your shows, or what would you say is the hardest part of organizing an event? The way you do it.
Part's like consistency, like keeping it going every year and keeping the quality and changing the events and dealing one-on-one, and like between my supply company and the convention, it's two totally different ways that people interact and deal with you as far as the owner, promoter, and things like that. So I would say some of the toughest things, one was just getting a venue to back then, getting a venue to even want to have host your event, like a big tattoo convention. It's just like the landlords back in the early 90s didn't want to rent to half the tattoo shops. So it's kind of like that mentality when I first got into it. I think now, venues and stuff realize they're probably all watching the shows themselves, but they realize it's a viable industry and that, to take it.
They even write to us all the time thinking that we organize the shows, but I get at least one email a week from an event venue. It's like, hey, you want to organize your next show? Well, we don't organize it, we promote them, but we don't organize
I get so many, like other venues trying to steal me away from like the Hyatt, the Biltmore. I'm like,
what do you think about the proliferation of tattoo shows? We had everywhere, but also in US in the last 20 years. I mean, there is a lot more tattoo shows now than back then. How do you deal with that? And how do you stay relevant with such more competition?
Yeah, there's a lot of shows, man. There's like shows every weekend, and now there's shows overlapping other shows, I don't know, man. Like I said, I've just always kind of done my own thing. I've had a lot of other shows land on same dates and things like that. Friend shows landing on same dates, and you just push forward. Obviously you keep advertising and trying to get your crowd and things like that. But yeah, it's definitely a different time. Just like tattooing, like it's to me, now it would be much harder to kind of like make a big name within tattooing because there's so many just badass artists, so many styles and things like that. Same thing with the shows. I think that hopefully they all contribute to one another. Like me, when I go to shows, I kind of look at how they're doing things and things like that. And I still try to learn from even things that other people are doing, because I just feel like I got the ball rolling. Other people have been pushing the ball the whole time. So that's how I deal with it. I just do my own thing. I keep the same flavor, and then try to add new elements too. That's it. I think that's what keeps people coming back a lot too, is mixing it up. Don't have the same band every year or same events and things like that. Like it's rare that you'll literally see the same events or the same band or anything at Hell City.
How about the same artists? Do they need to rotate every couple of years as well?
Yeah.
Or?
It's funny because that's a good conversation, because I think we don't have all the same artists, especially from when the show began. It's a whole different crowd, because a lot of the guys doing shows back in 2002 to even to 2010 don't really do that many shows anymore. So then you have the next kind of convention generation kind of coming in and stuff like that too. So I've seen it shift over the years, and I've seen big name artists come to Hell City when they were like small names, you know, like Nico. You watch the Hell City tattoo documentary. Nico's on there, Mario Rosendahl talking about how Hell City was one of their first shows. They came and just like took seminars and hung over shoulders and stuff. And I think Hell City
Nico Tado took a seminar at your show.
Yeah, before he was,
he didn't give a seminar; he took the seminar.
Yeah, exactly. I think it was like him and DeVries and Rosenau and all those guys, you know, and it's just awesome.
Yes.
Being like, damn, okay, it's inspirational.
It is. So what was your story with this documentary? You did bring out in 2016, right? And which spans across different years.
7 years.
And so what exactly did you want to communicate with this documentary?
Kind of the same thing with the show. I want to show like the fine art side and the community behind tattooing and the industry, and, you know, just conventions. Like the community at tattoo conventions is strong. You know, it's my tattoo family. So the film, the Hell City Tattoo Fest documentary, you can watch it online. It's available online too if you want to purchase the actual DVD. But it was filmed for 7 years at the Hell City Tattoo Festival, just going over everything. And it dates back to Guy Aitchison doing all of, you know, the interstate, and goes back to wet paint beginning and things like that. So it's really about the community. It's about the art form. It's about, you know, the caliber of artists, like I was talking about to some of the other events and things like that. But it's kind of more, I think you think of Hell City, it's going to be like, yeah. But it's more like in depth. It's kind of like not heartfelt, but it's definitely like an in-depth look into the tattoo world, into the tattoo convention community, and things like that. So if you haven't seen it, like, it is available online. I think it's had like 50-something-thousand views.
I saw it. Yeah, it's a very interesting one, though. You know, there's a lot.
If you haven't seen the Hell City documentary film, put it on your television one night, get some popcorn, and sit and watch it, because to me it's part of tattoo history. You know, these shows, especially now with, we don't know the state of conventions and what's really going to go on now. So
yeah, what do you think is going to happen now in 2021? I know this year's gone, but what's your idea for next year?
Well, next year I'm gonna, you know, we're working on 22 at this point, because we've
so we skipped 2021.
But I think what's going to happen personally, as far as a convention promoter and other shows around the world, I think people are going to still try to do their conventions, you know, which will, I think all those other convention promoters are kind of being like, all right, who's going to do it? I know Troy did his show, so we're all kind of sitting back and being like, all right, what's going to go on with the shows for the people that are doing them. But I think 2021, a lot of people are going to probably come to the reality to have dates set. I mean, we're only, you know, that the reality is going to be like, shit, I can't even have a crowd in that ballroom.
So you moved both your shows directly to 2022, right? Just
22. Yeah, it's just postponed, and that's even up in there, you know, depending on. But one thing that we have done with my managers and the pipe and drape companies, the board of health I've worked with already for our future shows, you know, we've expanded the floor plans. We've spaced booths out. We've made booths not just 10 feet wide, 12 feet wide, spacing. We're taking over more ballrooms at the Hyatt when we do come back, to kind of separate some of the crowds and artists. And, you know, we had to almost expand to keep the distance.
So you need more space, but basically to keep the same people inside, even in 2022.
Or just have less booths, which will probably be some of the formulas I think that are going to come up. Is going to be like just smaller gatherings, smaller ballrooms, because I mean, everybody can, you know, assert to this, that gatherings aren't going to come back right away. They're going to come slowly, and people get more comfortable, you know. But I think the shell shock of what's gone on with everybody, people just aren't going to be comfortable still, or their wives or their kids aren't going to be comfortable being in crowds, unfortunately. So I think, you know, and there's ways, you know, that we're, you know, working on things that if we were able to do it in 2021, we could probably pull it off, you know, digital portfolios, no more wristbands, stickers every day that people have to take off and recheck in. A lot of no touch, a lot of digital portfolios, so nobody's walking by and touching portfolios. You know,
do you think that some of those you know, restrictions that you have in place now for conventions and sanitizers, this no touch things, do you think are here to stay even after the pandemic?
I think so. I think this has changed just
Masks.
life in general. So there's an awareness right now about viruses and diseases and all this stuff that I think it's always going to be there. It always has been there. Just people haven't utilized it because there wasn't a fear, there wasn't a pandemic. But now that there has been, we're also scarred by it. That I think, when you go into Hell City, like there's going to be hand sanitizer everywhere. We're going to be giving out masks. We're going to be checking temperatures. You're not going to be able to bring in like a ton of bags and stuff like that. It's going to be kind of like a no-touch booth situation. QR codes everywhere if you need to know about anything.
That's good
Competitions
information.
are going to have to be like, the announcer's going to have to be over here. They're like, hey, we got so-and-so. And that one person's got to come up. There's not going to be the crowd, on the
At a safe
stages.
distance.
Yeah. So we're going to make everybody wear space suits, so it's going to be cool. It's going to be awesome.
So how about the contest? If you're gonna watch, if you want to judge a tattoo, you gotta keep a distance as well, or
right? Yeah, exactly.
That's gonna get a little bit harder.
It's gonna change a lot of just the way the shows function. It even can be where the aisleways are like one direction this way, come down one direction that way. People aren't going by each other, things like that.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any particular plan in mind for the first show that you will do eventually in 2022? Is that something that you really want to do after this pandemic?
I think I just want to get the wheel spinning again, man. Really, I just want to be able to bring everybody back together and just put the show on and get the spirit of conventions going again, man. As far as something new that we're going to come back and do all of a sudden, no. Literally, it'll probably be the first show back would probably be just kind of doing it the right way. And seeing how people react to it and getting suggestions to work on the following show. As far as entertainment, I can't bring in big crowds at the main stage. It could be like a stage here, stage there with different, so the crowd can only go to this one or you go see that. So I don't know. I'm sure I'm going to be interested too to see all the other promoters around the world and things that they're doing and the direction.
Yeah, and by the way, talking about other promoters, what do you know about the situation now, at least in the US, for most promoters? I mean, you decided to move directly to 2022. Do you know any other organizer which is still planning to go ahead in 2021?
I don't think I've seen anybody just moving straight to 22 like us just yet. But like I said,
some did.
Did they? Okay.
Well, Milano, for example, skipped completely 2021, but that's in February normally, so it's too much early on, and that's a big show in Italy, in Europe.
Soon. Yeah.
And
canceled Detroit, so I mean, a lot of the shows are canceled. I would like to see some of them come back if the vaccine, kind of cuts it down. Even if it's the smaller shows coming back, it would just be nice to know, like, all right, we're doing it. It's coming back alive, But we moved to 22. Simply out of like the reality that I think we're not going to be able to, not for Hell City. If it was smaller, I'd be like, dude, we can do something small. But with how big Hell City is, it's not to sound like this, but it's not worth the effort to put in something if 50 people are going to show up right now.
No, you don't want to do that now. Yeah. Well, I saw the last few months too, some shows going on, and obviously they didn't get as many visitors as possible. But as far as I've seen, the most tattoo artists, they were still working, so they were still, somehow successful given the conditions we live in, Yeah.
And the crowds will just be the main thing. See, I think the artists could stay busy because I think the artists could still book, given if the booths were secure and people felt safe coming in. I think the artists could still stay busy. I think the crowd's just going to be a whole different situation. Unless it's like
there's not a lot of interaction.
Yeah, just for a while. I think as people get vaccinated and the virus goes down, we'll be able to have the big crowds again.
Yeah. Let me see. Like I had quite a lot of questions for you. So give me.
Well, here, I've got while you're picking them out. Let me say we've got people beaming in. Leonardo from Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. Says hello. We've got Aldo says hello from Monterrey, Nuevo Leon.
Hello, guys.
Hello.
Joey Jackson Myers says, I remember the first year of the Hell City convention. It was about the same time as the Paradise Tattoo Gathering, although I did let him know that Hell City's got years on Paradise. But let's see,
That was
we've
one of the
got.
shows I helped work on too a lot with you, man. That was fun
We
organizing those shows with you.
wouldn't have been able to do it without you. It was amazing to have you, make sure that we don't fall off a cliff. I was
Those are some of my
unbelievably
favorite
thankful
shows
for
too.
it.
Yeah, those are great shows.
Okay, so we've got Melissa Sink is in. She says, "Hey all, I'm listening as I finish up my tattoo. Haha, quick break to pull up the live stream." That's Melissa. She's a reinventing.
What's up? Cool.
We've got tattoos by SJ. So much awesome content. And TY094 says, "Great to get insight into one of the modern day masters."
Oh yeah. Hell yeah. What's up,
That's you.
everyone? Thanks for tuning in.
And then we've got some questions from Hunter, but we could leave them until the end. So after you're all done, we'll have an audience question or two.
Hell yeah.
Oh, hey, that'd be cool. Yes, Durb, like one of the things I'm most interested about, you've been on for so long, you've been doing so many things in this industry. I think you are like one of the biggest contributors
Thank you very much.
in this industry. Is it anything else that you plan to do, like within your career, within this tattoo industry that you're still working on in the near future, or?
Yeah, I guess where I'm at right now with my career, I mean, definitely continuing when I'm able to continue with Hell City, I'm going to just pick it right back up where it was and hopefully push forward to the next millennia of conventions. Right now, I'm just kind of focused on, I just purchased a giant 10,000 square foot warehouse kind of facility with like huge lot and everything on it, pretty much right downtown Columbus. So what I've done is I've taken all my businesses and put them under one roof, where before I had like True Tattoo Supply was like down the road. So I'd have part of my workers there. And then I had Hell City Storage over here. And then I had Red Tree Tattoo Gallery, down the road. So I was kind of finding myself in a lot of directions, and I was finding myself without like a lot of my crews being able to kind of work together. So
Yeah,
that's been my
I
big
was
focus.
always wondering, how do you manage, do you offer time management courses, to
It's
do
a
all
lot.
this stuff at the same time, man?
Actually, I teach a seminar too called from apprentice to entrepreneur. So it talks about like
Okay.
rise up the ladder. That's another one too. Once I could travel again, I'll teach everybody. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at now. Is I'm focusing on my businesses, focusing back on my tattooing now that I have extra time, and just growing my supply company. What I'm doing now is I'm focusing on some new products that we're getting ready to release. I just invented and went to patent pending with the cartridge needle backflow adapter. So I'm kind of trying to do, I always try to bring something new to the table, like innovative.
Yeah.
That I don't like to look at people's tattoo products and be like, they got that, I want that. No, I try to bring something new and invent something, whether it's going to work right or not. That's a whole nother thing.
That's another thing.
I've been focusing on that. So focusing on True Tattoo Supply, inventing, you've got True Grip 5 coming out.
And by the way, like regarding supply, we had one of the questions we had for this episode was, about trade shows eventually for tattoo supply. Do you think we should have more of them? Because as far as I know, we didn't have that many type of shows yet.
Yeah.
Do you see the space for this kind of events in this industry?
Yeah, I know Tramp and Mario did the one in Vegas, the trade show, and that was really good. I got to meet a lot of other supply company owners and things like that, meet people that carried my products. I think there's a need for it, definitely, but I think it needs to be approached the right way. I don't think that like, let's say if there is a trade show within a convention, I think that you should have to be, show your credentials to get in there to purchase some equipment. Definitely, you can't have Joe Schmo just walking off the street, or somebody that walked up to the convention, they thought they could do it, but now downstairs they can buy a machine and ink.
Yeah.
So I think if there was a trade show aspect of it, I think that it would need to be, as far as a convention promoter side of it, should be regulated a little bit. You have to work in a studio, show some credentials, maybe your bloodborne pathogens or something that shows that you're safe, because we get people even coming into True Tattoo Supply that are trying to purchase products, and we make them show their bloodborne pathogens training and the studio that they work at, and I think as long as there's some regulations like that, that would be a really good thing to add to conventions. And those are things that may start changing too, because this may spark the industry to grow even more. You never know. Once everything goes back to normal, people are going to be chomping at the bit. So I think that the trade show part could be a vital part of conventions in the future.
I know Berlin is trying to, at least was trying to set up one for this year. like a separate event within the event, for tattoo supply,
Yeah.
And now I'm not sure if it is still going next year. But yeah, I think that was an interesting
We'll have to see.
experiment,
Everything's up in the air for next year, but hopefully people can, if they're planning their events, hopefully they can make it work. I just would hate to see anybody try to organize their show and then like something bad happen or financially get into any of that. So, but yeah, the trade show I think would be good addition, definitely.
Okay. And some of the other questions, let me see.
I'm drinking green tea, by the way, everyone.
Drinking green.
Probably looks like beer. Like Durb's getting wasted over there.
It's yeah, we discussed this already. Gabe, you had anything else you wanted to bring on the table?
Well, here's we have Giovanni asking. I believe he's from New York. He asked if you are from Ohio. I know that you're in Ohio, but I don't know if you're from Ohio.
Yep.
And then
from Newark, Ohio, originally. Yep.
Cool. And then his other question was, who did you guys idolize as artists before you started tattooing?
Who do we look up to as far as other tattoo artists or just artists?
Yeah, this is either or. I mean, he answered it a little bit earlier, but just maybe if he missed it, just.
What's funny is, well, some of the artists I looked up to were like, Dali and Van Gogh and all them. Robert Williams. Robert Williams is a huge influence. Trying to learn the chrome technique out of the Robert Williams books and things like that. Tattooing, believe it or not, when I was a kid, and this comes full circle. I saw a guy that lived down the street, and I would skateboard down this alleyway. There's a guy by the post office that was covered in all these like flowing kind of women's faces and just real fluent painterly tattoos, but it was like a bodysuit from what I remember. His feet have like these real elegant kind of painterly fantasy women's faces. So years later, when I got into tattooing and stuff, I noticed, so the guy that I apprenticed under, Tim Miller, worked for first, apprenticed under Marty Holcomb. Marty Holcomb apprenticed under Stoney St. Clair. There's a lot of history there. But those tattoos back when I was a kid that caught my eyes when I was skateboarding were Marty Holcomb tattoos. So those were some of the first tattoos I saw like artistically that didn't look like eagles and spider webs and, skulls and stuff like that. It was like a whole different art form. And I just remember just being kind of just mesmerized, like, what the hell? It's real?
And you were saying it's coming full circle because Marty was on your video in the background not too long ago.
Yeah, so Marty was in the Hell City DVD. Fucking awesome. He almost he's one of those soothing voices at the beginning, and he's in there a lot too. So years later, I'm speaking with Marty Holcomb about getting tattooed, personally getting a tattoo from him. And he's a great dude, super just chill. We call him the Wizard. And then he ended up telling me that the landlord from his studio, Artistic Tattooing, he's had since 1972 when I was born, they passed away, and that they didn't want to renew the lease. The daughter was going to change the building. And at that point I was like, man, just come tattoo with us at Red Tree, because it's real chill. It's appointment only, consultation only. And I thought at his age, I don't want to see him trying to rebuild a shop and all this stuff. So we brought Marty Holcomb under the crew, and it's just, everybody loves the hell out of him. He works harder than half the kids tattooing and stuff too. He's in there every night. He works from like 7:30 to like 1 or 2 a.m. every night. So anyways, some of the first inspirational tattoos that I saw were probably Marty Holcomb, And
awesome. How could people get a hold of him?
You can go to the Red Tree site. You go to, I think it's martyholcomb.net is going to be his website.
Awesome.
And then you can click on the Red Tree. If you go to redtreetattoo.com, you'll see him on the drop down. He's like top dog. So, and you can click on all of his everything. He's on Instagram. He's on Facebook. So he's still very, very relevant. And his artwork's amazing. To see him freehand tattoo still on people, or just even the drawings that he does on people's skin are just elegant, flowing and stuff. So.
Yeah, sick. And I remember when you were getting tattooed recently, he did a couple different versions for you to check out. So he was just like a non-stop art machine.
I've never seen anything like it. Like, no shit, for real. I think he had I was like, I want a dragon torch. That's what I said. I want a dragon torch to pass on, strength, all that stuff. And he did 8 versions of sketches that were, all of them were dope. There wasn't a one that I wasn't in love with. So to see that and to see his age and how long he's been tattooing, and listening to his stories when he's tattooing, man, it inspires me. I'm only 47, almost 48, so I hope to be as healthy and just kicking butt like Marty in the future.
At least 30 more
Nice.
years.
Yeah, couple more years.
I've got 2 more questions in. This is from Hunter Young. He's been beaming into a lot of these shows. Um, we'll save the easy one for last. So this one is okay. This was going to piggyback on some of the other questions that Alex asked, but I was this was he was curious about the criteria to end something like Hell City. I mean, I think you talked about it. In short, you just got to kick a lot of ass and just do seriously slamming tattoos that'll come across your desk one way or another, and that's the short of it. But you could, if you want to elaborate on that at the end. But the other question that he has here, and this is treading into territory that Joe Capobianco was ranting about yesterday. How do you feel about people booking out their appointments before they get to Hell City? So the artists that are booking out their stay rather than taking walk-ups. I heard Joe complaining about this stuff last night and was curious as to how someone heavily involved like you felt about it. From the convention promoter point of view, is it better to have artists that are taking walk-ups? Do you care if they take appointments all weekend? I mean, it's less people through the door. If a tattooer books 3 people. On the other hand, you want to make sure they're working. And so this kid Hunter, this fellow Hunter's 2 or 3 years into tattooing, and he's doing great work. So it's fun for you to be able to dump your advice on him.
What was the first part of that question again, Gabe?
Well, the first part of the question was about the criteria about getting into Hell City. Okay. And then the second part was about your opinions on artists that book up appointments compared to taking walk-ups.
So the criteria, like, there's been people that have like been working out their first Hell City, and they've been like, "Yo, Durb, I've tried for like 6 years to get into this, man. I'm stoked to be here." So a lot of it's like, being persistent and stuff, and kind of staying in my face. Meeting me at a convention, that's another big thing too. So like, I get so many people that I don't know their names, so many emails and messages bombarding. But when I meet somebody in person, it's like a different connection. Sometimes I'll go back to their booth and like flip through, see how their actual portfolio and how their, I hate to say it, but how their booth looks too, how they present themselves at the shows. Because I don't want somebody with like a sock hanging up with their name on it in the back as their banner.
So this is like you checking out people at the other shows, and
so traveling, hitting other shows, introductions, even emails too, real personable emails, not just like, "Hey, how do I get a booth?" It's like, come on, man. So
you can do a little bit better than that.
Yeah, but you'd be surprised the amount of people that write so impersonable, short emails that don't get your attention, that just blend in with everything. So I think the professional, emails that come through like, "Hey, man," and actually like, give me your links. Another thing too that we've done over the years is like, if you email me and you want a booth and I haven't heard of you and you don't put your links to your portfolio and tell me a little bit about you, and like, I want to see your portfolio. I want to see your art portfolio link and your tattoo portfolio link. So that's a big thing too, is being more personable with people and being thorough. Don't just ask a question. "Hey, my name is Durb Morrison. Love to get a booth at your show. Please check out my tattoos. Also, please check out my paintings." Something like that.
Be professional and polite. That's still.
Yeah. So one of the things that I often tell people, I'm like, "Are you participating in what the convention promoters are doing?" Yeah. And half the time they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, if you want to get into the London show, are you like, I don't know, submitting shit to Mickey's magazines? Are you actually, did you go to London? And to your point, like, did you go to Hell City and introduce yourself to Durb? Well, no, he's kind of busy. Well, he's very busy. So you don't want to like, you can't take up too much of his time, but he is there to meet people. Yeah. Introduce yourself real quick. And
I like when people take a moment, to say, not like 10 minutes when I'm trying to get to the main stage to get a performance going, but like, I like to, that's one of my favorite parts of tattooing too, man, is just meeting the people, meeting other artists, and like the camaraderie of tattooing. So, but back to that point, back to his question is, be personable, be persistent, don't be afraid to introduce yourself, things like that. And stay persistent, because eventually you'll be like, I've seen this name before. Just like Gabe, you saw the guy's name. You're like, he's been on these chats before, so you're starting to recognize his name. So it's kind of like that. Yeah. What was the second part of the question, Gabe?
The second part was, do you care how much people or artists book up their appointments in advance or take walk-ups? And I'm sure you've heard Joe go off on it before, so you know what he's referring to.
Yeah. One thing that I've usually told most of the artists at Hell City is like, if you're going to book up a day, just try to book Friday. because I know Fridays are usually the slower days of conventions until, you know, later in the day when everybody's off work and stuff. So I tell people, you know, try to book on Friday if you can, because once you have that one, the crowd's gonna. It's almost like if you're sitting there not tattooing, nobody wants tattooed by you. The second you start tattooing, and we can all, any artist can attest to this at a show, it's like people want to get tattooed by you when you're working. So you don't need to book up Saturday and Sunday because it's unfair. And if you're there to like get new clients and not work on like an existing tattoo, which we've all done, I'm guilty of it too. But try to, you know, keep your books open and not to sound like this, but there's a lot of artists that sit in the back of their booths because they know they're already booked and they don't have to get up and talk to people or interact with people. And sometimes the crowd, you know, somebody can be like, I didn't even look at me. He didn't even talk to me. Oh, he's already booked. You don't care. So I think keeping,
it's a little bit of a problem sometimes.
Yeah, man. That's what I tell people. I'm like,
nice.
make eye contact. Go to the front of the booth. Like, not to sound like this, but we're salesmen. We got to be personable. We got to sell our tattoos and our, you know. So if somebody's booked up and they don't care, that they could change your perspective of it. I think it's good. Everybody's booked. But I think given the opportunity for the audience that's actually there to collect tattoos from artists that they can't get tattooed by anywhere else, you know, except for at that show, I think it's important to keep, you know, an open book. One of the things with Hell City that I do is I don't have, with all due respect to every local studio, I don't just have every local shop at Hell City. There's a million badass shops in my town. It's nothing personal, even though I think you get some indirect hate from it. But I don't want people to come into Hell City and know that they could have not paid money to get in, to go to the person that's like a mile down the street. I want people coming from, you know, Italy or California or like Germany, all over, you know, and that's what we've had at Hell Cities. We've had a really, you know, good collection of international artists and, you know, national artists too. But I think it's unfair to give somebody an experience at a convention, you know, and I do have a lot of local studios. I have what, in my opinions, are the high caliber local studios that are out there hitting other shows and being a part of, you know, the convention and the community and stuff. So, but I want to give people a different experience that they can't normally get, you know, whether it's collecting a tattoo from their favorite artist from Japan that can't normally come, you know, things like that. So I think it is important to keep things open so that the crowd can kind of experience the show or experience getting a tattoo from their favorite artist.
Cool. So one last question in from the chat room here. So coming from an artist that isn't super knowledgeable about tattooers or the tattooing history in general, how much value do you levy on understanding the history of tattooing to be part of what it is now?
I think that's a good question.
Yeah, I think it's very important. You know, whether you're part of this generation, you don't know the history of it. There's nothing wrong with going back and being like, all right, when was it Queen Mary? When, you know, when did all these shows start? What is the real history? Not just this country, but everywhere. Because tattoo conventions, I mean, they've inspired some of what's really going on today too. You know, that's where the brains bump at the conventions, and that's where a lot of big things like collaborative tattooing at the Worcester show, the Tattoo Third show that Paul put on. You know, those are groundbreaking moments.
Yeah, I just have to say there's an awesome story in the archives of the Drunk Critique about the Worcester show and some very famous tattooers putting an anus square in the middle of somebody's back. It was an unbelievable story that you'd have to find. But now I'll bow out.
Story.
I was probably watching the anus get tattooed, didn't even realize it was getting hidden there from the crowd. But yeah, I was, you know, those were inspirational shows, all Paul shows. You know, but they inspire, and I think they've started a lot of what's going on in tattooing today, because collaborative tattooing is still going on. You know.
And Durb, what would you think is the biggest role in general for tattoo conventions within the tattoo community?
Bringing the community together. I would say tattoo conventions are ideal for like bringing people together. You know, to creating friendships, relationships. You know, like you walk away from a convention, you feel very humbled. So I think that the inspiration that it gives people too artistically, and it just opens up all kinds of other doors, man. I wouldn't be like able to go do guest spots and travel the world and go to other people's shops and other shows if I didn't get out and do other shows. You know, you could do a lot in your own studio, but as far as getting out and really doing it, you know, conventions, to me, that's where it's at.
Mm-hmm. And one last question I have for you, it's coming back to the fact of this guy asking, what do you really need to do to be noticed by an organizer and be admitted to your show? On the same theme, what do you think are the biggest challenges for new tattoo artists now to succeed compared to when you got started almost 30 years ago?
Yeah, because it is, like I was saying too, it's like much harder to to get your name out there because there's so many names and things like that. Getting into the shows, it's just like studios, like it's not easy to find an apprenticeship. It's not easy to get into a tattoo studio to become go through the apprenticeship and have one of the artists there. Yeah,
it's harder now.
It's harder now. Exactly. The level that tattooing's out at artistically makes it even harder now, but just same thing with the shows. Sometimes it's hard to get into, especially some of the bigger, heavier hitter shows, because a lot of them have like waiting lists, or veteran artists that have done the show for like 5-10 years in a row. But it's all that, just like with anything in life, it's persistence. Be persistent with it. Don't get short fused with the promoter because you're not getting a booth and send some shitty email when you had a couple beers in the middle of the night. We've had all this shit happen, because just be persistent. That's the main thing. Just like if you don't get into one studio for an apprenticeship, make your portfolio stronger, go back into the next one, so that thing too. And I think even if you don't get into the bigger shows, sometimes you gotta have those ones you cut your teeth on too, like the ones that I did when I first was starting and stuff like that. So maybe not always go for the big shows so you're not disappointed you didn't get in, and cut your teeth in some of the good shows. Don't go to like shitty shows that are all dirty or do whatever. But yeah, choose wisely and get in small and then grow from there.
And on the other way around, like for the older generation of tattoo artists, how do they stay relevant today in the era of the internet, social media,
staying out there
and stuff like that?
I think not denying what's going on, like staying up with the social media stuff, still going out, even if you're tired or whatever, go to conventions, kind of still be a part of what you're a part of. That's the main thing. Once you go home and hibernate,
embrace change.
Exactly. Yeah, and embrace the change. Like the big thing too is like, yeah, you have to stay up with social media, because that's how we're all communicating right now. You have to stay up with Zoom meetings and, the live podcasts. And because you can deny it as much as you want. Like the old people are like, I don't need that. That's what's up. That's where we're at.
People will forget about you.
Yeah, exactly. So staying relevant, and staying occupied. I'm interested whenever something new's out, like social media, any of that shit. Like, fuck, I'm on TikTok, man. I'm 47. I'm on there fucking acting silly.
I gotta catch up on that.
All bubbles and farting and shit,
Gabe, are you on TikTok?
There's no way I'm getting on TikTok. Yeah. I'm settling very much
He's like,
into
I'll watch
the
Durb shit on TikTok.
you know what I do? Your stuff actually comes through somehow, but I'm pretty much off of the social medias. I'm sticking to this reinventing community. And I'm no longer addicted to getting on Instagram or IG.
Yeah.
I'm starting to get addicted to how many people are signing up to the community now.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, wait a minute, that's not right. But anyways, no. It's we do have, let's see, Highlander says Hell City is always a great show. So we've got more people complimenting the shows. That Hunter Young. I keep saying kid because his name is Young. I don't, we use Young, but that just happened.
Everybody's young when you're getting old. Talking about.
He was, thank you for hosting this. Thank you to Durb for answering the questions. And you'll probably be seeing his submission every year for the next couple of years.
Right,
but,
exactly. Send me an email now. Portfolio links, everything. 2022.
And now you know how to participate at the Hell City shows.
Right?
Well, the thing that I think is really the best advice, just knowing that Durb, and other convention promoters are walking around all of the shows. So yeah, if you're just kind of phoning it in, if you forgot your portfolio, you don't have your business cards, you're just kind of joking it off and being like, well, I'm just here to drink with my friends anyways. That's one of the reasons why if you're looking to be in a best in class show, that promoter walks right on by you.
Yeah.
And it's worth, just like with the tattoos, like every little detail, every single time, that's what makes it happen.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't be too cocky,
Yeah, don't be cocky.
Exactly. Be cocky.
Yeah, that's the other thing. I've had people say, like, you'll either have me at your show this year, or you'll have me at your show next year. And I'm like, actually, I don't think you're going to be at my show. You know, with that attitude, you are an awesome artist. But like, you didn't get in. You didn't not get in because you're not a great artist. You just didn't get in because there wasn't a spot this year.
Yeah, and I think that's a big thing too. Is like, just personalities and attitudes. You know, to keep the industry positive, you gotta have positive people. You know.
There you go. That's a big positive message here.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
100%.
Especially now.
Quick, I see the credits are going on in your background, Durb.
Oh shit.
That means it's time.
The Hell City is over, everyone. You should go watch it.
When you guys are finished closing it up, then I'm going to pop back to announce the rest of the schedule, and we're all good.
Okay. Well, thank you, Durb, for having this conversation with me. I really, really appreciate it, and I really hope to see you then.
Where's the last place I saw you, man? We were hanging out Romania.
Remember Bucharest? Yeah, I think we should have Kosti here next time.
Did you go? Yeah,
that's right.
Kosti's fucking great. Did you go to Dracula's castle with us?
No, man, I left too early. I really regret. I didn't participate in that, man.
Yeah, that's the one I was wanting to come back to too, so bad. I want to go back up to Dracula's castle, and I wanted to do a tattoo up there. Now we got the battery packs.
I saw your pictures, and I was really jealous. Like, shit, I really missed out.
It was awesome, man. It was awesome. Kosti's a good host, man. That was a good show.
Yeah, he really is. I hit that up last year, and it's worth taking the extra days for the field trip.
Yeah, definitely.
Hey, by the way, it's from him. Remember that?
Oh shit, yeah. Hell yeah. I got one of those.
It's still really, really cool. Love that.
Yeah, that's solid.
Thank you, Kosti.
And this is
memories.
Kosti. Yes, we definitely need to get Kosti on here. Look at that shit.
There you go. Yeah. Okay, Kosti, you're the next one if you're watching this.
Yeah. So you gotta get on here, buddy. I met him for the first time at the Worldwide Tattoo Conference.
Yeah, the one in Venice. He brought his whole crew.
Yep, his whole crew.
So in Venice, you met him.
Yeah, that's where I met him for the first time.
In 2016,
Yeah.
It's funny because with Kosti, we got started a little bit in the same time. I think he started the convention in 2010. And I remember a lot of email exchanges between the two of us. He just got started. I got started. Like, dude, this is really cool what you're doing. Yeah, same here, you know. And then it took me many years to see him in real life for the first time. I think it was in Milan a few years ago. But.
Yeah, he's a rad guy.
Yeah, and but yeah, hey, Durb, we'll I hope we see you then in 2022 somewhere, maybe next year somewhere. You know,
feel good seeing everybody one day. You know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the main thing is like we're gonna get through this. I think the thing right now is to be smart. You know, be safe with everything, the conventions and all that. They're gonna come back, you know, regardless. We'll all be back at it. But yeah, like right now, we're just trying to make the right moves. Hopefully, everybody else around the world's making the right moves with their shows. Hopefully, everybody's successful when they come back. You know, and it's unfortunate.
Stronger than ever.
Yeah, we've never seen a time like this in tattooing. So hopefully, we never see another time like it.
I hope not in our lifetime, man, because that would really suck if we'd have to deal with that again.
Yeah, exactly.
One time it's enough.
Yeah, I hear you.
Hey guys, thank you everyone for watching, and thank you, Durb, again.
Thanks for having me. Thanks everybody for listening. And if anybody has any questions, want to do follow up, you guys can email me. It's durb@hellcity.com. If you want to check out my website, you can go to durbmorrison.com. But if I didn't answer something here, convention promoters want to talk, any of that stuff, hit me up.
And Alex, how can people find you?
Well, I'm on Facebook, Instagram. You can always watch my website, worldtattooevents.com, which lists all the best tattoo conventions on the planet. So we're working on the schedule for next year. If you have a new convention to make for next year, if you have new dates, please send them over because we need your information as well. Please communicate what you're doing. You know, for the tattoo convention organizers, let us know what you're doing. Keep everybody updated. I mean, that would help a lot. I see a lot of people on standby, but just it would be good if they gave a little bit of an update, like, hey, we're still on, you know, as per today, you know, and I think it would be a lot more beneficial for anyone which has to attend your convention. You know, just let us know what's going on.
Awesome.
It's the best possible thing you can do. Anyhow, so
sweet. Awesome.
Thank you again, guys.
Thanks, Hughes. I'm going to read off the upcoming schedule and thank some of the sponsors, and we'll catch up with you all pretty soon.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you again, guys.
Thanks for having me.
Have a good night. Thank you. Good to go.
Remove pin. Okay, so I guess I'm going to try to pin myself here. Thanks again for watching. That was pretty amazing. Durb is a force to be reckoned with. I've literally only scratched the surface, and he's got plenty of podcasts and interviews out there on YouTube. So just do a search, Durb Morrison. Again, thank you, Alex, from World Tattoo Events.
Thanks,
by
Alex.
far one of the best websites that has comprehensive information about tattoo conventions. In the background, you see we've got the Cheyenne machine rolling. So if you go to tattooeducation.com/giveaway, then you can sign up. You'll have to tell us what tattoo shop you work at, or apprenticing at, or you have to be official. But then you will be entered to win a full-on machine, a Solterra with a grip. If you email Gabe at Tattoo Now your upcoming tattoos, inkjet stencils will send you a sample. It's basically it's like a computer printer that prints out your stencils. It's amazing technology. And then we have a ton of upcoming shows. Tattoo Collecting Podcast every Thursday at noon Eastern. Paint Jams coming up the 13th, 9 p.m. with legendary Judy Parker. Everyone paints and creates art together. Also, Tattoo Smart is doing something Sundays earlier, so catch the Tattoo Smart YouTube channel. Monday mornings, every Monday morning, the Reinventing Drawing Group gets together and draws, and so it's cool to just kind of listen in, to kind of like these interviews. Also, if you're an artist, or tattooer, you could join in and draw. And Needle Jig does interviews at noon. Reinventing the Tattoo does exercises every Monday night. And yeah, the last thing, if you dig this, reinventingthetattoo.com, subscribe. Guy and his crew are amazing and make all this stuff happen. Without it, this shit wouldn't happen. Okay, damn. I don't know how I got into being the announcer guy, but here we go. Someone's got to. Cheers, fellas.